I haven't picked up any sort of any ideas or any.
The media machine in Cleveland is running a quiet, deliberate operation against Shedeur Sanders, and I need every single person watching this video to understand exactly what that operation looks like before it succeeds. We are not talking about legitimate football analysis. We are not talking about honest roster evaluation. We are talking about a coordinated, undeniable effort by a segment of the sports media establishment to manufacture a reason, any reason, to make Shedeur Sanders disappear from the Cleveland Browns quarterback room before he ever gets a real chance to prove what he can do. And the most brutal part of this whole story is that the people pushing this narrative know it is nonsense. They have admitted, on record, that they do not even know where the trade rumors came from. They have admitted they have not picked up a single credible signal that the Browns are actively shopping Shedeur Sanders, and yet the rumors keep circulating, the noise keeps building, the pressure keeps mounting, and Shedeur Sanders keeps being the target. Welcome back, this is Hot News, and today we are ripping the doors off the media hit job being run against Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland, exposing the people who want him gone for reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with football, and making the case for why Todd Monken, Andrew Berry, and this Browns organization need to hold the line. Let me give you the full picture here, because there are actually two separate stories happening in Cleveland right now, and both of them matter enormously for Shedeur Sanders and for the future of this franchise. The first story is a good one. A genuinely good one. The Browns are moving toward locking up veteran safety Grant Delpit on a contract extension, and that decision is a direct signal about how this organization is thinking about its immediate future. The second story is the one that should make every Browns fan furious, because the media establishment has been floating trade rumors about Shedeur Sanders with zero credible sourcing, and the people generating those rumors have a motivation that has nothing to do with what is best for the Cleveland Browns. We are going to walk through both of these stories in full detail, but I need you to stay with me because the connection between them is more important than either story on its own. Let us start with Grant Delpit because this is the foundation. Delpit is a 27-year-old safety who is in the final year of a 3-year, $36 million deal. Right now, he has a cap hit of approximately $8 million still on the books, with roughly $16 million pushed ahead into void years. That is a contract structure that gives the player zero future security, zero. And no player in the NFL, regardless of position, regardless of age, regardless of how loyal they have been to their organization, wants to walk into a season knowing that their financial future is completely unresolved. Delpit has given this organization 5 years of reliable, high-quality safety play. 5 years. He stuck with Cleveland through a serious injury as a rookie, came back and delivered. Reporting from beat writer Mary Kate Cabot makes it clear that this extension is a matter of when, not if. The Browns think highly of Delpit. They stuck by him through his injury, they watched him develop, and they understand that at 27 years old, he has plenty of productive football left. The expectation is that this deal gets done, possibly before training camp, possibly even sooner. Now I want you to sit with that for a second because here is why this matters for Shedeur Sanders specifically. The Browns already lost Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, one of the most dominant defensive players in the entire NFL, gone in a trade that sent shockwaves through the entire league. That loss was brutal, catastrophic for the defensive identity of this team, and the response from the front office and the coaching staff has been to double down on retaining the defensive pieces they still have. Denzel Ward is still here. Grant Delpit is getting his extension. The Browns are not dismantling, they are rebuilding around a defensive core while the offense figures itself out, and that is the critical context for everything that follows, because the offense figuring itself out means the quarterback situation has to be handled correctly. It has to be handled with patience, with intelligence, and with a clear-eyed understanding of what this team actually has in its quarterback room. Todd Monken is the offensive coordinator, Andrew Berry is the general manager, and both of them have been paying close attention to what Shedeur Sanders has been doing since he arrived in Cleveland. The reporting is explicit on this point. Shedeur Sanders has put in the kind of off-season work that has made the coaching staff and front office take notice. The description that has been used is that the difference in his preparation and his grasp of the system is night and day compared to where he started. Night and day. Let that sink in. Night and day. This is a young quarterback who was drafted in the 5th round, who spent the better part of his rookie year as the 3rd-string quarterback on this roster, and who has used every single moment of his offseason to close the gap between where he was and where he needs to be. He has done everything right, everything that was asked of him and more, and the reward for that work, according to the media establishment, should be a trade out of Cleveland. I want to be direct with you right now, because this is the part of the story that makes me genuinely angry. The trade rumors surrounding Shedeur Sanders are not coming from credible football sources. The people closest to this situation, the people who actually track what Andrew Berry and the Browns front office are doing on a daily basis, have said clearly and unambiguously that they have not picked up any indication that Cleveland is actively shopping Shedeur Sanders. Not a whisper, not a hint, not a single credible conversation that suggests the Browns are out there trying to move this kid. So where is this coming from? That is the question you need to be asking. And the answer, when you dig into it honestly, is deeply revealing about the state of sports media and the specific forces that have been working against Shedeur Sanders since before he was even drafted. Think about what we know about how Shedeur Sanders arrived in Cleveland. All 32 teams in the NFL passed on him, some of them repeatedly, until he was taken in the 5th round. 5 rounds, almost 5 complete rounds of the NFL draft went by before a team finally selected Shedeur Sanders. And the reasons given for those decisions were never purely about football. The conversation around Shedeur Sanders in the lead-up to the draft was poisoned by noise that had nothing to do with his ability to play quarterback in the National Football League. That is a documented, undeniable reality. And now that he is in Cleveland, now that he is putting in the work, now that the coaching staff is reportedly seeing a night and day improvement, the same forces that worked to suppress his draft stock are back. They are back with trade rumors that nobody can source. They are back with the suggestion that if Shedeur Sanders does not win the starting job outright, he cannot even function as a backup on this roster. And I need you to understand how absolutely absurd that claim is on its face. Shedeur Sanders spent most of his rookie season as the 3rd-string quarterback on the Cleveland Browns. 3rd string, he handled that role. He handled the preparation, the install, the mental grind of being that far down the depth chart while competing in a quarterback room that is now in a full legitimate competition. He handled it. The people saying he cannot handle being a backup quarterback are not making a football argument. They are making a comfort argument. Their comfort, not his. Let me be entirely clear about what is actually happening here. There is a segment of the sports media landscape that has been getting absolutely hammered on social media for their coverage of Shedeur Sanders. The backlash has been real, it has been sustained, and it has clearly gotten under their skin. And instead of examining whether their coverage has been fair, instead of asking themselves whether the criticism has merit, they have arrived at a different conclusion. The problem, in their view, is not the coverage. The problem is Shedeur Sanders existing in a prominent enough position that people keep talking about the coverage. The solution, in their view, is to make Shedeur Sanders go away, trade him, move him out, remove the source of the discomfort. That is not a football argument. That is a self-preservation argument dressed up in football language, and it is one of the most ruthless, blatant examples of media bad faith I have seen in a long time. The establishment does not want you to look at this too closely, because the moment you do, the entire framing collapses. The entire narrative that Shedeur Sanders is a problem, that he is a distraction, that he cannot function in this quarterback room, falls apart completely when you examine the actual evidence. The actual evidence is that he has worked harder than expected. The actual evidence is that the coaching staff has noticed. The actual evidence is that there is no credible sourcing for these trade rumors. None. Now let us talk about the quarterback room as it actually exists, because this is where the trade talk becomes not just dishonest, but genuinely illogical. The Browns did not invest heavily in the quarterback position this offseason. The other quarterback they added is Taylon Green, and the reporting is explicit that Green is a project. He was drafted knowing he is not ready to be a starting quarterback in the NFL right now. That is not a criticism of Green, that is just the honest evaluation of where he is in his development. He is a long-term investment. So when you look at the Browns quarterback room honestly, what you see is Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson, and a developmental project in Taylon Green. Those are your options. That is the roster as it exists. And in that context, the idea of trading Shedeur Sanders becomes even more indefensible. You would be trading the one quarterback on this roster who represents genuine upside, genuine hope, genuine possibility of becoming something real, in exchange for what? A second-round pick? That is the hypothetical that has been floated. Somebody calls and offers a second-round pick for a fifth-round pick. And yes, in a vacuum, turning a fifth-round pick into a second-round pick sounds like good business, but you are not trading a pick. You are trading the one quarterback on your roster who the fan base can actually get excited about. And this brings me to the dimension of this story that the pure football analysis crowd does not want to acknowledge, but which is completely, unavoidably real. The Cleveland Browns have a new stadium coming. They are thinking about the long-term future of this franchise. They need to keep their fan base engaged, invested, and willing to show up through what is going to be a difficult transitional period. And the brutal truth is that Deshaun Watson is not the answer to that problem. Watson is associated, in the minds of Cleveland fans, with one of the worst eras in recent Browns history. The trade that brought him to Cleveland is widely regarded as one of the worst trades in NFL history. People do not want to see him. That is not my opinion. That is the documented, explicit reality of how a large portion of the Cleveland fan base feels. Shedeur Sanders is the opposite of that. Shedeur Sanders is the unknown. He is the possibility. He is the reason a segment of the fan base has something to look forward to, something to wonder about, something to get genuinely curious about as training camp approaches. You trade him, and what are you left with? You are left with Deshaun Watson as your face of the franchise going into a season where you are trying to sell tickets to a new stadium. That is a catastrophic outcome from a business standpoint, from a fan engagement standpoint, and from a pure football standpoint. The people pushing these trade rumors are not thinking about any of that. Or worse, they are thinking about it and they simply do not care because their primary motivation is not what is best for the Cleveland Browns. Their primary motivation is making the noise around Shedeur Sanders stop. Their primary motivation is making the social media backlash they have been experiencing go away. And the cleanest, easiest way to do that, in their minds, is to make Shedeur Sanders himself go away. I want to say that again so it is absolutely undeniable. The argument being made is not that the Browns would be better without Shedeur Sanders from a football standpoint. The argument being made is that the media people covering Shedeur Sanders would have an easier time doing their jobs if Shedeur Sanders were somewhere else. That is the actual argument. That is what is underneath the trade talk. And it is one of the most self-serving, intellectually dishonest positions I have encountered in this entire conversation about this young quarterback. Now let me tell you what I actually believe is going to happen, and I am going to put my name on this directly. The Cleveland Browns are not trading Shedeur Sanders. Andrew Berry is not shopping him. Todd Monken is not asking for him to be moved. The front office has watched this kid work, has heard the coaching staff describe his offseason preparation as a night and day improvement, and they understand the full picture, the football picture, the roster picture, and the franchise picture well enough to know that trading him right now would be one of the most catastrophic decisions this organization could make. I am not wrong about this. The pattern is too clean. The evidence is too clear. The people with actual access to this situation are saying the same thing. The Browns are not doing this. What the Browns are doing is building a defense they can rely on. They are extending Grant Delpit. They are keeping Denzel Ward. They are maintaining the core of a defensive unit that can compete even while the offense is developing. And on offense, they are giving Shedeur Sanders the time, the install, the quarterback competition, and the opportunity to prove what he can do. That is the plan. That is what the evidence supports. And the media establishment that has been trying to manufacture a different narrative is going to be wrong, loudly and publicly wrong, when training camp opens and Shedeur Sanders is still in Cleveland, still competing, still putting in the kind of work that has already made the coaching staff take notice. The old guard does not want you to focus on what Shedeur Sanders has actually done since arriving in Cleveland. They do not want you to think about the fact that he handled being third string without complaint, without drama, without any of the chaos they predicted. They do not want you to think about the fact that the coaching staff is describing his offseason improvement in terms that suggest a player who is taking this opportunity with complete, absolute seriousness. They want you to focus on the noise, on the rumors, on the social media cycle. Because the noise is easier to control than the facts. But the facts are right here. Grant Delpit is getting his extension. The Browns are investing in their defense. The quarterback room is Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson, and a developmental project. The coaching staff has seen night and day improvement from Shedeur Sanders this offseason. There is no credible sourcing for any trade rumors, and the people pushing those rumors have admitted in their own words that they cannot identify where the talk even originated. Shedeur Sanders is still in Cleveland, still working, still competing, still being exactly what this franchise needs him to be, a genuine, undeniable reason to believe that something better is coming on offense. and the media machine that tried to suppress his draft stock, that watched all 32 teams pass on him across nearly 5 full rounds, that is now generating sourceless trade rumors to try to make him disappear, that machine is going to lose this one. I am going to put my name on a specific prediction right now. Shedeur Sanders will not be traded by the Cleveland Browns before the start of the regular season. He will be in that quarterback room when training camp opens. He will compete for the starting job. And whatever happens in that competition, he will still be on this roster because the Browns understand that trading him would be a football mistake, a franchise mistake, and a catastrophic PR mistake all at once. Save this comment. Shedeur Sanders stays in Cleveland. If I am right, come back here and like this video. If I am wrong, come back here and roast me in the comments. I want the receipt either way, but I am not wrong. This is what the conversation about Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland actually looks like when you strip away the noise and look at the documented, traceable, undeniable reality. A young quarterback who has worked harder than expected, a coaching staff that has taken notice, a front office that is building around a defensive core and needs the offense to develop, not to be dismantled, and a media establishment that is so uncomfortable with the backlash from its own coverage that it would rather see this kid traded than do the honest work of asking whether that coverage has been fair. Drop your most honest take in the comments below. Is the media push to trade Shedeur Sanders a legitimate football argument, or is it a self-serving effort by people who want the noise around their coverage to go away? I want every opinion willing to commit to one side, one line. Pick a lane and defend it. Hit the notification bell because this Shedeur Sanders situation is moving fast and the truth about what is really happening in Cleveland keeps getting buried under sourceless rumors that we are going to keep pulling apart. We will see you in the next video.
Wait, so what am I talking about? I'm talking about the social media backlash. I'm talking about the social media pondering. I'm talking about everything that goes on in the cycle of the internet world when it comes to how people feel about the coverage.
I haven't picked up any sort of any ideas or any.
Wait, so what am I talking about? I'm talking about the social media backlash. I'm talking about the social media pondering. I'm talking about everything that goes on in the cycle of the internet world when it comes to how people feel about the coverages